Hi, welcome to my Easy DSLR Basics course. Now in this course we are going to go through the basic features and principles that you need to take command of your DSLR camera. So in this first chapter I'll have an orientation of the course, which I'm giving you now, and there'll be a really important chart which I'm going to go through in a minute, which is the photo triangle, and that's going to be the foundation for understanding the principles that you need to know to be able to take better photos with your DSLR camera. So the way I've structured this course is I start with an overview of what a DSLR camera is, and then I have another video talking about essential items in your DSLR kit. So these are things that you'd want to have to be able to take your photos to the next level. Now, I want to go a little bit more into that photo triangle because this is really going to be the foundation that I talk about all the other settings and concepts on. And that really gives you a bird's eye view of all the settings without being overwhelmed with all the extra buttons and things on your camera. So there's just key settings that you need for creating a good photograph and key concepts. And my photo triangle is to give you that bird's eye view of, or the map, to show you the important things that you need to know to get there. So once you go through the course and I build up on those different concepts, you'll find it's actually quite easy to understand, to see how they interact. So with the photo triangle, I'll just go to the whiteboard and show you the main points. Okay, so the major points of our photo triangle are frame, and that's talking about things like perspective, framing your image, and also includes lens choice, which is very important for getting the right perspective and the correct framing of the image. And the second point of our photo triangle is light. Now light includes things like exposure, which is the tonal value or the actual light levels of your image, as well as color. So we're looking at tone and color values here. So we look at things like getting correct exposure with aperture, shutter speed, ISO, as well as how white balance affects the color of the image. And then our final point of our triangle is focus. So that's looking at what's in focus and what's blurred. Sometimes you may want to blur parts of your image to create an artistic effect or the effect of speed. So once you understand these three main points to taking a photograph and you understand all the settings that feed into that, which we'll look at as we go through each video, then you have a really good basis for understanding how to get a good photograph. And you'll also start understanding how the settings on your DSLR camera relate to those points. And that'll give you a really good foundation. So once you have that foundation and you can really move off auto, for one, on your camera, you'll understand how to set the exposure, the white balance, the focusing, and also things like lens choices and perspective. So from that point on, with that solid foundation, you can move on to more creative areas in your photography. Okay, the first chapter that deals with the photo triangle is our third chapter, which is on composition, which deals with framing of your image, and that looks at perspective, lens choice, and I have some really interesting tips on how to use the autofocus points in your camera to compose your pictures better. Now the next chapter after that is exposure. Now exposure is one of the key things to understand for taking better photographs, and I'll look at the three main settings that are required for getting correct exposure, and that's the ISO, aperture, and shutter speed. So once I've covered those three, then you have a good idea of how to control the light values in your image. And then the chapter after that is on white balance, which is how to get the correct color in your images. And after that I look at focus and automatic focusing techniques, as well as the key concept of depth of field. Depth of field is a really important concept for being able to create really artistic photographs. And it's really one of the features that sets DSLR cameras apart from regular point and shoot cameras, just that ability to control that depth of field and to get really narrow depth of field if you want to isolate your subject. So really important lecture that. And then after that I have two final videos on flash. So in that I go through the three main situations where you'd want to use flash to add light to your images, and finally a video on using diffusers, which I find the most flattering way of getting really good flash photographs. So once you come out of this course, you should have a good grounding on the principles that you need to take better photographs. Okay, I just wanted to make the point that this particular photography course is for beginners using DSLR cameras, or it's for people who are making the transition from film style SLR cameras to digital SLR cameras. So that way you can understand how some of the technologies have changed so that you can understand how digital SLR cameras work. It's not really for professional photographers because some of the concepts here will be a little bit too basic, and they should have a good grounding in those principles already. So now that I've laid the outline of the course, you can go to that next photo triangle lecture and you can actually download that as a file so you can refer to that chart as we go through the different lectures. So you're probably ready to jump in right now, and so go ahead when you're ready and you can start looking at the what is a DSLR camera and the essentials. And if you have a bit of an understanding already about DSLR cameras and you're not a total beginner, then you can skip straight to the composition video, and that'll give you some really good key concepts for being able to compose your images to create better photographs. Okay, so when you're ready, just jump in. Thank you.